4 channels right now.
Awesome.
Instead of just, what we had. But yeah, I'm a knucklehead.
So one thing I was that I wanted to bring up, I guess, real quick, is man, had some nice storms yesterday. Did you guys get some rain up in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, we did.
We got slammed. So I was down at the training center where I work now for my daytime job, delivering smiles to girls and boys all over the valley here. But dude, the lightning was insane.
Really? I didn't have any lightning.
Dumped on rain, but then as I'm leaving work, I'm like, it's just everywhere. Flash. And I'm like, this is awesome. I love a good storm.
Had some great storms. I guess what I'm leading to is, during this storm or after the storm, there's a helicopter flying around up above Timpanogos there, and got a notification that there was a lost hiker they're looking for.
Oh no!
After the huge storm. So of course this individual did not have a phone with them. An older individual, I'm guessing 60s. I don't really know. I don't know what the story is either, but the helicopters aren't flying around anymore, and he's been gone for 2 days. So something quick learned there. I mean, something I've known for a lot of years, but apparently, some people don't know these things because they get lost and are unable to communicate. Is always have a phone with you. I mean, yes, it's a tracking device, but if a storm's coming and you're going to the mountains, you probably should have something they can locate you with, or something you can call for help. And then be prepared for the weather.
The crazy thing is there's so many places that you still have reception anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like on Timpanogos, I haven't been up there for years, but I would imagine you can almost have coverage.
Not everywhere, but yeah, you get up in the basin, and I'll have signal up in the basin up there. It can send some texts, but not make calls. And then on top, yeah, you got full signal on top.
Oh, you do have a full signal?
Yeah, on top you got full signal because you reach out onto the valley. I mean, you get full signal up there. But that's something that's pretty basic that everybody should know. But there's always stories that pop up where lost hiker didn't tell anybody where they were going, didn't take a phone, doesn't have the right clothing, didn't really take any water or food or anything, and those are such easy mistakes to avoid. I mean, for the lack of carrying a few extra pounds. Go heavy,
go
heavy. I mean, what does it hurt to go a couple pounds heavier, to have a phone and some extra water or a signaling device or a rain jacket? So, I don't want to be grim or anything, but I kind of doubt anybody could survive that kind of cold overnight in the getting wet and being out in the open like that with no shelter. It's pretty grim to me.
We were visiting here. I was in Colorado. I grew up in Colorado, but years ago we had a family reunion in Aspen Grove, which is down by Timpanogos. I wasn't at the reunion. I don't remember. I think I had to work. But my brother, who was probably 14 at the time, and my cousin, who was 15 at the time, my uncle had nicknames for them. But this day they were Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and then they became Tweedledum and Dumber. And they went and hiked Timp in shorts and t-shirts and hiking, not even hiking shoes, just tennis shoes. And they had one can of, I think it was 7-Up or Sprite between the two of them. So there's one can for the two of them. And they hiked all the way, I believe, to the top and summited, and we're coming back down, and they found some people nice enough to share some water with them. My family's like, where'd they go? Everyone's freaking out because they kind of lost them for half the day. But these people who are like, where's your water? They're like, oh, we don't have any. Do you want some water? Oh, that'd be great. We're so thirsty. Well, what did you have a drink on your way up? Did you lose it? And they're like, well, yeah, we had a Sprite. And they pull out the can. They're like, see, we're packing it out. We're responsible. You're not responsible because you're hiking Timpanogos without water. Right. And this goes back to our prior episode. We talked about if it's up, if it is to be, it's up to me. Or in other words, you are responsible for yourself. You are responsible to take care of your needs and your group's needs with whoever else is in charge of that group, whether you're the husband, the wife, the grandpa, the grandma, like whoever you are in that group, like you've got to take care of your responsibilities.
Yeah, I remember years ago I lived in Fresno, California this is when I was dating my wife at the time, And we did a youth, like I don't know, 18 to 24-year-old kind of group from our church. And we wanted to go climb Half Dome. And that's a really, that's a hike. You got to be ready for it. You can just kind of do it if you want, but you're going to really take a long time. And so I thought, 18, 19, 20, 25-year-olds should be in shape enough to be able to do this. Well, we get up to the top of that thing. It took us way longer than it should have. And by the time we're coming down, it's nighttime. And I don't think anybody brought a flashlight. And so there's another group, same kind of thing that was happened. And they're like, there's a couple of people that, since I had organized the event, I felt responsible. And by the way, being personally responsible is critical to being a prepper. We talked about in our last episode, but the idea is that I went back to go find somebody who I thought was lost. And they're like, hey, we were lost. We didn't know where to go. We don't have a flashlight, nothing. I'm like, you know what? Follow me. The good news is that I have a skill where I can see really well in moonlight. And thank goodness the moon was out that night. And so I said, don't worry about a flashlight. Just stay next to me because I can see everything I need to see with the moonlight. And thankfully I had that and was able to help them. Well, another group, as I was helping these people down, another group was like, hey, can you show us which way to go? We don't know if we should go that way or that way. I'm like, yep, follow me. You can come with me. And so I had already hiked it once before, so I had some familiarity with the terrain. But it's important to know what you're doing, where you're going, and have the equipment necessary. And thankfully I had a full moon. If I didn't have a full moon, I wasn't prepared with a flashlight. So thank goodness God had given me a full moon to guide myself and those folks out that night, because I don't know what would have happened. We ended up getting down the mountain and being okay, but it was wild to realize that we weren't as prepared as we thought we should have been.
Having good night vision is actually amazing. Like, it's a huge benefit over a lot of people that just don't. I used to have amazing night vision, but as my vision's changed, my night vision's gotten worse, or not, just degraded.
Well, that's also something that's learned as well. Is I've got some good friends that are survivalists. That, they never take a flashlight with them because they've have enough experience in the backcountry with that. Even with some starlight or a very small sliver of moon, they can see their way around, or they know when to stop when it's dark and set up camp. But being able to hike without a flashlight and just have that experience and learn that confidence that's actually a really good way to hike with the moonlight, rather than limiting your vision to a bright spot on the ground with a bright light, and then you can't see anything else around you, right?
Yep.
You're much more aware to be able to hike without a flashlight. If there is enough moonlight,
Yeah.
Done a lot of night hikes on temp. So
that's exactly what happened to me when I was hiking Mount Whitney, which is in Sierra Nevadas in California. That's the highest peak in the lower 48. And it was interesting because I went with a group and we had headlamps, and I was having such a hard time seeing. I turned mine off, and I was like, "Oh, this is so much better." And it's like only time that I'd have a problem seeing that from then on was when someone would get too close to me. I'm like, "Hey, get your light out of here!" And they're like, "You don't have your light on?" And I'm like, "I see better without it now."
Yeah.
Like, if you let your eyes acclimate, like, we're also used to being in the city. I have headlamps all over my house now because if the power goes out and it's nighttime, you can't see anywhere because there's no windows open to get lighting from. So I've got to have a light to get to the window, to open the window, to hopefully get some light in from outside. But in the bedrooms, there's just none until you grab a headlamp, or you grab, in my case, my phone. Everybody's phone has a light on it. That's your first light. Use that light to get to a headlamp or to get something else. That's your starting point. But it's funny because night vision is so amazing. If you can see and not use lights, it's such an amazing skill, because you can go a lot farther without a light than you need. You don't need a torch. In the wild, you just don't need as much.
Yeah, and when you have those types of things that give you comfort, like a flashlight, obviously is definitely gives you a level of comfort and confidence outside in the dark, right? But if you learn to live without it, you can still learn to have that confidence and comfort without having all these nice things you need to have. And when you don't have them, you're not. It reduces fear. it helps a lot of different ways that you can just, that's what these survivalists do, right? They go out with a knife and with a jacket or very few things, and then learn to build confidence in those kinds of skills, and not having a flashlight. I guarantee you they don't carry those types of things with them.
At PrepperCon, Matt Graham came and visited. And for those of you guys who know, Matt Graham was on Dual Survivor. He's a wilderness survival guru. He was actually, I think he was just at Rabbit Foot. A bunch of people were just at Rabbit Foot this last week. David Holiday, Tyler White, they love those guys. And then Matt Graham came to PrepperCon, and he was talking about how, like, his first time in just wandering off and not coming back, he was gone for 6.5 months in southern Utah. He's like, that was kind of my first walkabout or my first wander around. And he's like, I had a really tiny little homemade poncho that was really not much, and I had a tiny little bit of cordage and my knife, and then I was wearing moccasin shoe type things and just shorts and a button-up shirt. He's like, I built everything else out there. And I'm like, you were gone for 6.5 months and that was all you had? He's like, yeah, it was like the bare minimums. He's like, once you understand what you can do, you don't need anything. And that was like kind of the blow your mind moment for me, because, I've talked to Tyler White and he's like, oh yeah, I can start a fire. I don't need anything. And he talk about all these things, but he always carries a pack. And a lot of times it's a small pack. Like, I'm talking small. Preppers, we have these huge packs. We're like, oh yeah, I've got 80 pounds. It's like, where are you going? Like, to the front door and stopping? Because that's as far as you're going to get. Like, get out on the porch and you're done. And then you see like these guys, or like Cody Lundeen, who doesn't even wear shoes. He just wears socks or barefoot. Yep. And they're wool. It's like, when you know more, you need less.
Absolutely. But, there are definitely some caveats there. There's some exceptions. Just booklet I remember reading as a kid is, To Build a Fire. If you remember that one, it's up in Alaska in middle of winter. It's when it's dark all the time. It's 60 below, it's 70 below, it's 80 below. And there's a miner trying to get to his mining camp in the middle of winter. And the older senior people in town say, don't go alone. Never, when it's 60 below or colder, never go alone. You tell me it goes 0, I'm not going alone, right? But 60 or below, don't go alone. And he's got his dog and he's heading out to the camp, and he's trying to avoid breaking through thin ice because there are springs coming in and there's some thin ice, and he ends up breaking through and getting wet. Well, can you imagine how dangerous that is, getting wet at 80 below 0? So he's able to pull out his flint and steel and collect some wood and start a fire. And he drives himself out and heads out. And then it happens again, and he's unable to start a fire. Snow falls on his fire, and he said, I can make it to camp. I can make it there. And of course he can't. There are certain environments where you just cannot survive like Matt Graham did there, right? Just go out with Southern Utah, middle of summer, okay, that's one thing, right? You got shorts, you got a t-shirt, and you could survive if you know the land. But I think that comes in not as often as you might think. You've got to be prepared. You can't be a minimalist in all aspects, I think.
Yeah. I think another important thing to remember is that these guys did that by themselves. And, most of our listeners, I hope, a lot of our listeners are family people, and they have kids. And, I might be able to survive, maybe a couple of days, of weeks, maybe if I was out all by myself. But if I had my whole family, I got to have some stuff. Like, I got to have to be able to survive any length of time. I've got to have a few more things. I got to have a few more sets of, gear, some food, some packs, some water bladders, something, because, you just got to, it's a whole different mindset, I think, in survival when you've got a family versus when you're by yourself. And being by yourself is that's important to have those skill sets, but then you got to expand that into, okay, how can I survive and get my wife or significant other, and then my kids, and how can we all survive?
Right. And we can't get them all out into the wilderness to practice these skills with us. Not that I've ever done anything like remotely close to what Matt Graham, did, just taking off. But there's obviously, we're so spoiled with our comforts that the difference would be very stark if we just had to be thrust into that. And you know what I mean? And it's that's where obviously experience comes in, practice comes in. But when it comes to, like my sign here, apocalypse, right? When we're in the apocalypse, I want to be comfortable. I don't even want to know it's the apocalypse, right? Things can be going on all around me, and I'm in my own little world, doing my own thing, and oh wow, there's something happening over there, but I don't know what it is, and it doesn't really matter because it's way over there, and I'm over here, right? So that's my goal for the apocalypse, for the SHTF, right? Is to not even know what's going on outside my little world, right?
Yeah. Well, that's ideal, right? Like, just have it figured out and be done.
Mm-hmm.
And can everybody do that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right. There's certain situations that's just not feasible, but you can try.
If you really want to, man, I'm working toward it. Still got a ways to go, but
yeah. I mean, it can be done. It can be done. If anybody can do it, somebody can do it. If somebody can do it, anybody can do it. So it can be done. It's just a matter of priorities. Mm-hmm. And so I think that people need to realize, look, if I can sit around and learn how to, beat the ultimate boss on level 35 of my video game, or I can go and learn how to actually win in life, in real life, and figure out how to keep myself and my family safe in the event of a natural disaster, or even just a regular everyday disaster like a car accident or loss of a job or things of that nature, and just realize, hey, okay, I'm not saying don't play video games. I'm saying get ready, prepared, be prepared. And then if you have time after that, then go do whatever you want to do. But after you've done what you're supposed to do, then you have time to do those extra things and those fun things. So if you are replacing your time with trivial, kind of frivolous things, I think that's a misuse of time. I think you could be more respectful of your time and your future and your family's time and future by making sure that you have enough income, that you have enough money in savings, that you have enough food storage, that you have enough water storage, that you're thinking, you're getting out of debt, that you're thinking clearly about what you can do to learn a skill, to whether it's a skill for concealed carry, or whether it's a skill in like some martial art of some kind. And then from there, learn skills on how to start a fire, how to pack a bag, how to do all those things. I mean, there's so many things for us to do and learn that we can spend our life doing them and then still not know everything.
Oh yeah, there's so much you can always learn. It could be never ending and overwhelming, and that's, I think, one of the big scary things for most of us is, well, what do I really do forever? Like, do I just keep doing this? Yeah. The answer is yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It becomes a way of life. It becomes a simplistic solution to pretty much everything.
Well, I think once you dig in, like you're talking, Paris, and you're using your time wisely, you're learning about things. What I realize is that, man, the more I know, the less I understand. Right? I just keep digging in and learning a little bit more here and here, and realize, man, there's so much I don't know. And that time, that wasted time, that time that you wanted to waste, is for me is much less of a desire to want to waste any time, but rather learn more about the things I don't understand. And that's just the thought that came to my mind. The saying, the more I know, the more I don't know. The more I know, the less I understand. That's been so true for me.
Like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's humility that comes with that, and there's wisdom, I think, that comes with that. And man, there's so much we don't know, right? As podcasters and as preparedness life learners, like we know a lot, but like if you separate each of us, our knowledge just went down drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But together we're so valuable because we have this huge library between the three of us of things that we each know or that we're better experts in. Like Shane's got hands down more knowledge on solar and hands down more knowledge on handguns and rifles than Paris and I.
Well, I think there's an aspect to that you can be to a point where you think you know a lot, but then you're just dangerous, right? Because you don't know enough about that. And so hopefully you get to the point where like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing, but then there's so many things I don't understand, like I was saying. And so you don't get to, you don't get to the point, or you get past the point where you're dangerous to yourself or others because you think you know something. You think you know enough, right? It's a never-ending learning.
I think that's an attitude too. You know, if you have an attitude where, hey, I already know everything, I don't need to have anybody teach me anything. That's the problem. The problem isn't not that you don't know enough. It's that you have an attitude that you do know too much, or you already know everything. And so, you know, I always joke with my teenagers. I'm like, well, I need to remember that I need to ask you my questions while you're still a teenager and you still know everything.
Yep.
And because when you become an adult, you obviously won't know anything because you'll be like me and I don't know anything.
We go backwards.
But,
So true. Yeah, it's so true.
And so I'm just thinking, you know, when I lived in Fresno, I had a big orange tree in my backyard, for an example, and I knew exactly when to harvest that thing. I knew when to prune it. I got good at it. I had it for many years. Well, I moved to northern Utah, northern middle Utah, and I don't know the climate as well here. I have a pear tree and a plum tree and a couple cherry trees, and I'm just thinking, wait a minute. I may have missed the harvest already. Like, how do I prune them? Like, they're totally different trees. Two, it's a totally different climate. And so now I need to be humble enough to say and reach out and say, okay, who can teach me when to prune and then how to can this so that I can keep it over the winter. So there's always opportunities to learn, especially as you're moving around. And we just had a comment by Doreen's Food Prep, and experience is a great teacher. Isn't that true? That is so true.
So true. Like, how many times? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've been at 7 roadside accidents with first aid kits helping out. The first accident I was at was 8 accidents. It puts me at 8 accidents. The first one, I didn't have a first aid kit. And that experience, I'm like, holy crap, I need to always have first aid kits in my car. And not just a basic kit. I'm talking advanced kits. So I have a basic, an intermediate, and an advanced kit in my car almost all the time. Because I don't want to roll up on an accident or be in an accident and not have a way to stop something that's critical or fix something that's critical and just watch somebody die or die myself.
Yeah,
those experiences like really like burned it into my soul. Always have those first aid kits.
Yeah, you've heard my story, Scott, where as a teenager I was up climbing and came down for the day. Driving down, we saw a car crash off the side of the road, and there were 2 guys staggering around all bloodied and everything. And I was 16, 17, something like that. And I had absolutely no idea what to do. Not a clue what to do. And I really decided, now that I look back, or a couple of years later, I went and got my EMT certification because it was something that scared me. I was not good with blood. I still really am not, except in an emergency situation. And it was a huge weakness that I wanted to remedy. And I went and learned how to become an EMT. And not everybody needs to go that far. You go become a first responder or learn about first aid, and just have that confidence. So when you roll up on an accident like that, hi, my name is Shane. I'm an emergency medical technician. Can I help you? It just becomes automatic. And then you can really truly help instead of be a hindrance or likewise.
What's funny, like I was in a car accident once in Cedar City, Utah. Well, coming out of Cedar City. I was 45 minutes out of the city. And so I was quite a ways up the freeway. Rollover accident. Stupid accident. Totaled my vehicle, of course. Rollovers. They pretty much always destroy everything, even the person inside.
Nowadays, fender benders total vehicles.
I was like sitting there in a daze of red clouds, dirt flying everywhere, and my car completely destroyed. And somehow my phone stayed on the little center console tray. I don't know how, as we're spinning and flipping and throwing everything out. All my camping gear's thrown out all the windows. The first person on the scene, off-duty EMT. Second person, off-duty emergency room nurse.
Wow, that's a blessing.
Those skills, they had me out of the car and down on they found my sleeping bag. They pulled that out, they opened that up, like, can we use this? I'm like, if you can find it, you can use it. Like, I don't even know like what's going on. And then they started going through the assessments and they're checking me out. And they're like, it's going to be at least 40 minutes before services get here. And they were right. It was over an hour and a half to get me to the hospital. And they were calling right away. And so having people with skills vis-a-vis Shane going through the EMT training, those types of things, having the skills and the knowledge and getting a group of different people with different skills and knowledge together, oh my gosh, it's so advantageous. Like if I need to build something, I know who to always call. My dad has built everything. I've built many things. I'm really good at shelters. I've done tons of lashings and building shelters like for scout camps and survival camps and all kinds of different things growing up. But it's like, if I need to build something, the best person for me to call is always my dad. Doreen over here, she's saying, I need Shane in my life. We all do. We all need Shanes in our life. I'm going to put that up there. We all need experts of different things in our lives because one, it fills a gap. Two, we can then learn things from them all the time. And you've got better conversations with people who can teach you something.
But then you're underappreciated, you take it for granted,
If I have ever taken you for granted, I am sorry.
I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about people closer to me, right?
You're talking about kids and siblings and that's
people who shall not be named, right?
That's awesome.
But that's I think that's a very real situation we all struggle with because we're not appreciated. I mean, I've got a group of people that I'm close to here where I live that they're just like, I'm useless to them until the apocalypse. And then they're going to want to know all this information. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, little red hen story. I'm like, you snoozed, you lose. Bye-bye.
But I'm looking forward. You know what? I'm looking forward to that apocalypse, man, because I'm going to really shine. All my craziness for the past decade plus is going to really ring true to a lot of people that I know. Like, wow, Shane wasn't so crazy after all. We know where to go, right? When it hits the fan.
Well,
so I'm looking forward to that.
Like, I have acquired a very special skill set in my entire life. Like, it'll be our Liam Neeson Taken moment.
Yeah.
Taken, it'll be like, go away. This is my stuff. This is my house. These are my people. Strangers depart. Like, get out of here. We got this. We're good. That's going to be when we shine. That's going to be like, look what I can do. Like we did 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. I think it's important to remember that we do need that validation and at a very basic human level. And it's going to be nice to have that validation. At the same time, however, I'm going to be super sad to see so many of my friends that weren't prepared in really bad places and maybe people that I love dying or suffering. And so there's the mix. It's kind of a mixed blessing. You're like, it's so natural, man. It's so human to say, well, I told you so. Or if you would have just listened to me, you would have never had this happen to you. But at the same time, we got to be sensitive and say, you know what? Look, I'm prepared. I prepared. And we have to realize that like, there are some people we're not going to be able to help. And that's just the reality.
Are you going to let them take food out of your kids' mouths? Right. That's the question I keep asking myself. Like some family comes to me. Hey, I told you so. Do you really want my kids to suffer so that you can eat for a week or a month or whatever? I don't know. Some hard things to figure out, but figure them out now. Just make those decisions now instead of when it comes down to where, you say, yeah, sure, everybody come on in. And then you last for a month, but you got the whole neighborhood there.
And that's that entitlement thing that I really struggle with. There's so many people who are entitled. They're like, well, you have it. And we need it. So you need to share it. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. When did you ever hook me up with whatever you had when I needed? Mm-hmm. No, like the street, it's a two-way street. Like if you're not working together to solve problems, when things are bad for me and they're good for you, and then when things are good for me and bad for you, like if we're doing stuff the whole time to help each other out, that's one thing. But if through all my hard times, you were never there for me, and now there's a hard time where I'm going to excel, you want me to be there for you. How's that fair? It's the same thing as the college professor who took all of his students and said, okay, we're going to be fair and equitable with all the points.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to have a chance. No one's going to, rise above anyone else. We're just going to do everything off the median. No matter how good everyone does, we're just going to grade everything off the median and average it out. Well, in the beginning, there's the students that are like, I'm still an A+ student, so I'm going to work my butt off to get my A+. And you notice that after getting B's and then C's, then they're like, I don't care anymore. And so they stop caring. And then all of a sudden you realize the average went from B's to C's to F's, and everybody fails
Because nobody wants to contribute anymore.
because nobody wants to contribute. And when we have that
Mhm.
mindset,
Mhm.
like it goes back to our last episode, you've got to be responsible for you and yours. If you aren't, no one else is going to be. And you have zero entitlement to any of that. Zero of those resources belong to you. They belong to someone else. Same as the knowledge, same as the wisdom. Like I tried and we tried and other people have tried to like wake you up. If you won't wake up, if you won't do those things, I'm sorry, it's past that time.
Yep. When the
Yeah, of
time
course.
for decision has arrived, the time for preparation is over.
Mhm.
My favorite example is the example of Noah. And this is hard because it's like eventually we are going to run into the same scenario. The Lord's going to destroy the wicked and preserve the righteous. I really hope I'm on the preserve side. Really, really hope. Now,
Mhm.
in Noah's time, he's like, Noah, go build this ark. And it took Noah years to build that thing. Years and years and years.
Probably decades.
I can't remember. I think it was like 60 years.
I think it was 100. I think it was 120 years.
Oh, he preached for 120.
He
preached for 120 years.
And then
I
he
don't know if
was
he's
like,
building the
Lord's
ark
like,
for 120
stop
years.
preaching and go build this. So then he goes and builds this huge thing. And the Lord's like, put all the food in there. And then the last 7 days, he's like, okay, let's get all the animals in there. And then the Lord sealed him in. And he's like, okay, you're in. You're done. Here comes the rut. Here comes the rain. And everyone comes running. They're like, hey, no, let us in, let us in. And they're pounding on the walls.
Can't.
He can't help them.
Yeah.
I'm sure if he wanted to, we would want to help too. Like of course we want to help.
He tried to help for, like you say, for 120 years. He tried to help.
And if people won't listen, if people won't do, if people won't put into practice the things that we're trying to help them with now, it's like there may come a time where we want to help, but we can't, or there's just not even an opportunity to help because we're not here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find us.
Yeah. Right.
I wish I need to work on this. I need to lose 60 pounds so that I can be ninja and hide. Now it's like, you'll see me like hanging from the rain gutter and pull the rain gutter down. I can't even get on the roof type of thing. Like it's comedy meant for Saturday Night Live and not for, the doomsday. So that's why I'm working on my doomsday fitness. I'm getting it back.
You'll be hiding behind the tree and we'll see your outline around the tree because the tree's not.
Why is that tree so fat in the middle? The trunk got weird. Yeah, that'd be me right now. It's bad. People, don't get out of shape. If you're out of shape, this is your reminder to get back in shape. I actually had a really cool conversation today because of this. I go to the gym almost every day. I met a dietitian today at the gym who actually lives in my neighborhood. Grew up, not in my neighborhood, but in my city. Grew up here. Talked for a while. I asked him for a spot is how I met him. And then he asked me for a spot later. He's like, there's so few people you can trust at the gym. Can you spot me? I trust you now. And I'm like, you trust me? Why? He goes, because when you asked me for a spot, you told me exactly what you needed. And it was everything I've ever learned about lifting to do. And I was like, oh, this guy knows his stuff. And I'm like, I may know it, but I don't look it because I haven't practiced it for a decade. And he laughs and I laugh and we start talking about kind of what we do. And he's like, yeah, I'm a dietitian. I work at the university hospital and I work with all the people who are recovering from cardiac issues. Most of them cardiac arrest, right? Or they've had to have an emergency surgery of some sort. And he's like, the number one thing that causes all these things are the bad diets going into it. And we talked about working out. We talked about diet and we talked about exercise, the right types of exercise to eliminate those and reduction of sodium. And it was like, oh my gosh, yes, it's exactly what we're talking about right now. Do all the things now to fix it so that it doesn't become too late.
Mm-hmm.
I don't run out of time because I was dumb and let my body go to crap and keep going to crap further. Right. Same with preps. Take care of it now, people. You still have time. Like a lot of supply chain issues are now being resolved for a little time. We're going to have a season of okay, maybe. And I'm not going to say how long that is. It could be like, I don't know, Hobbit's breakfast schedules where it's like, oh, no, it's time for second breakfast, right? We could be back into crap in 3 months or a week or who knows. That's why take every opportunity to better your situation now when those opportunities come up.
Absolutely. It's a good place to finish up there, I think. We're 38 minutes.
Well, fine. I guess we can end the episode.
I got to go paint. I got to do some painting.
I've been building all day today. I've taken a dump load to the garbage dump landfill. I've ripped out all the door casings. Yeah, the casing door trim around the main floor of the house because we're getting ready to sell. Just got all of it gone, and I've got almost all of it all back up. All new stuff.
Nice.
Today, main floor.
Dang.
I've been working my little hiney off, so I appreciate what you're about to go do. So with that, I'm going to end the episode. Guys, remember to like, subscribe, follow, and interact with us on all of our social media platforms. Just look for Prepper Talk Radio, all one word. You will find us on Facebook, Instagram, as well as other places. And if you're on TikTok, we're there too. It's the weirdest place. Not as often as we used to be, but our favorite place is here in our Facebook group, here on our podcast, simulcasting, as well as on YouTube. So make sure you're following us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Get notified because we post additional content up there that's just for the YouTube group. So hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And more importantly, we're giving away a Jase case. So Jase Medical. It is gonna happen as soon as we break 1,000 followers on YouTube. So make sure you're following there. Make sure you're in our group so that we can select you to win. And stay tuned, but more importantly, stay ready-minded. We'll see you on the next episode.
Take care.